God, just execute me there because I can't get any kind of justice. I'm tired. I'm at the end of my rope.
Number 7. Inside Judge Tom Neville's Rice County courtroom, 34-year-old Melissa Gillette broke down, her cries echoing in the silent chamber. She was facing the consequences of a fatal decision that ended the life of a man she claimed to love. Through sobs, she pleaded that she did not mean to kill Jason Nyberg. He was already serving time for a previous drug conviction, and Gillette's visit was meant to bring him a moment of illicit relief, not a death sentence. During a visit at the Minnesota Correctional Facility, Gillette smuggled meth to Nyberg in a capsule, a tragically common method of passing contraband. She passed it to him with a kiss. He swallowed the capsule and died just 3 hours later from a massive overdose. The very substance meant for a temporary high delivered a permanent end. She insisted to the court, "I didn't plan to murder him. I made a mistake." Her defense hinged on the argument that her actions, while reckless, were not malicious. But the judge replied with a cold, hard fact of the law. You do not need intent to kill to be guilty of third-degree murder. The act itself was enough. She was sentenced to nearly 13 years in prison, a long time to reflect on how she would not accidentally murder again. Number 6. A young Michigan couple, sentenced together, and in a chilling moment of shared realization, they freaked out together. Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari were charged with felony murder and first-degree child abuse. The victim was their own daughter. Mary Welch was just 10 months old when she was found unresponsive in her crib. A medical examiner ruled the cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration due to neglect by her parents. The couple had refused medical care for their daughter, citing religious beliefs and a mistrust of doctors. At the time of her death, she weighed only 8 pounds. After finding her, the parents waited about 90 minutes to call police, first calling their own parents and praying. The mandatory sentence for felony murder was on the table, life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the judge confirmed the sentence, a chilling shared reaction unfolded. Both Welch and Fusari's faces contorted in disbelief and horror as the reality of never being free again set in. Number 5. In a quiet San Jose condo, a horrific scene lay hidden. Regina Johnson murdered her 4-year-old daughter and her husband Nicholas. In a truly bizarre and disturbing turn, she stayed with their bodies for 3 full days before finally reporting the deaths to authorities. During the long and arduous trial, she repeatedly freaked out, blurting out accusations and incoherent statements, only to be hushed by her own legal counsel. At her sentencing, the judge handed down the maximum penalty, 80 years to life in state prison for 2 counts of second-degree murder. In a final desperate attempt at justification, she hinted that her husband had committed a murder himself and that she killed him in an act of twisted justice. No evidence ever supported her claim. The truth may never be fully known. But 2 lives were gone, and a mother was to blame for both. Number 4. On Halloween night, 21-year-old Brandon Spencer opened fire at a party near the USC campus. His intended target was a rival gang member, but his bullets didn't discriminate. 4 innocent bystanders were injured in the chaos. Their night of celebration turned into a scene of terror and bloodshed. At his sentencing hearing, faced with 40 years to life for 4 counts of attempted murder, he completely lost control. He began violently banging his head on the defense table, shouting his innocence. Bailiffs had to physically restrain him as he screamed, "I'm innocent! I'm innocent!" His outburst was a stark, violent display of a man realizing his life was effectively over. Guns, campuses, and grief. Number 3. In an Iowa courtroom, 20-year-old Dustin Armstrong faced the judge, visibly shaking. The air was thick with tension as he stood to account for his horrific actions. He was given a chance to speak, and through tears he offered an apology. But for the victim's family, his words of remorse rang hollow, a stark contrast to the violence he had inflicted. Armstrong had brutally beaten a toddler, Braden, who he believed to be his own child. In a fit of rage, he admitted to grabbing the little boy and slamming his head against a wall. Braden was found unconscious with a broken jaw and extensive life-threatening brain damage. Doctors feared the worst, preparing the family for a devastating outcome. Miraculously, he survived and made a remarkable recovery, but the attack left him with permanent disabilities. He faces lifelong challenges with his vision, hearing, and cognitive development. The sentence, 50 years in prison. Number 2. A moment of road rage turned fatal on a California highway, ending the life of U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Zachariah Buab. The incident began with a minor traffic dispute that spiraled out of control. Prosecutors said Darla Jackson, enraged, chased Buab's motorcycle at speeds exceeding 90 miles an hour, weaving recklessly through traffic. She tailgated him, barely 5 feet behind, before striking his bike and sending him flying. Jackson claimed it was an accident, that she never intended to hit him. The jury, however, convicted her of second-degree murder, but the judge, citing her lack of a prior criminal record and potential for rehabilitation, reduced the conviction to voluntary manslaughter. The court then committed her to the Department of Corrections for just 6 years. 6 years, not life. The sentence was confusing, controversial, and a devastating blow to the victim's loved ones. Number 1. Michael Marin, 53, was a millionaire who once thrived on Wall Street. A Yale law graduate and former financier, he projected an image of success and control, but his fortunes had turned. Facing financial ruin, he bought a foreclosed mansion and, when he couldn't afford the payments, tried a risky, illegal house lottery to offload it. Authorities shut the lottery down. Soon after, the house mysteriously burned to the ground. Marin claimed he escaped the blaze by climbing down a rope ladder, but prosecutors said it was arson, a desperate insurance play. They presented evidence that he had intentionally set multiple fires inside the home. The jury found him guilty. At the verdict, facing up to 21 years in prison, he calmly reached into his bag. He appeared to swallow something. Then, moments later, he put his hand to his mouth again. Suddenly, violent convulsions. He collapsed in open court, his carefully constructed facade crumbling in the most dramatic way possible. A Yale law grad, a millionaire, a man who thought he could control everything, chose his own stunning end moments after his conviction. An autopsy later confirmed what the courtroom had witnessed in horror. He had swallowed a cyanide pill, a final shocking act of defiance. If you want part 2 of the stories behind the vaults, subscribe and turn on notifications.